Good afternoon, Tom Nguyen, G-Force. We're going to be right back. Good afternoon, Tom Nguyen, G-Force. Wherever you are today, I am grateful for this moment, an opportunity to share how gratitude can change everything in your life. I'm a little background about myself is that I've been in the personal development business, trained by some of what I call friends, but some of the greatest thought leaders in the world, such as Bob Proctor and John Maxwell, and some other great mentors that have influenced me and changed my life forever. But one of the things in my coaching and some of the principles a lot of great mind leaders talk about is gratitude. When I hear people talk about gratitude, and they're talking from a place from the heart, you know where it's coming from. And whether it's successful relationships, business, whatever, they're always going to a conversation of gratitude. And that's sort of the signal that when I heard my guest is coming on one of her interviews, is she was talking about gratitude. And in my studies, and one of my clients turned me on to something I always like to reference, that gratitude, many times we just take it for granted. Appreciation, we take it for granted. We approach it on a very surface level. And one of my clients turned me on to this book, and it's been probably one of the most profound books. It's a very small book. Robert A. Emmons, he's a PhD at University of California, Davis, does a lot of research on gratitude, positive thinking, and those type of things. And this book is amazing. It's probably been the most influential. I recognize I was taking my life for granted, and my attitudes and position for granted, and my gratitude and appreciation and thankfulness for granted. When I started studying this book, everything changed. Everything changed on how I look. It's a 21-day workbook as well. And I just encourage anybody that is looking to make a significant change in their own lives, have a perspective to look at the world in a different frame of lenses, is get this book and study it. It made a big difference in that. So I'm saying, always I'd like to thank Terrell Hunt for introducing me to this book. It's changed everything and how I do my coaching. So with that all said, I'm excited for having my guest on today. I had her on Own Your Own Health on Wednesday. So I'm really excited to have Dr. Nguyen come back on today. And I'm going to have her tell her story. And so, Doctor, are you ready to come back in?
Yes. Hi there.
As I always like to start all my programs out is, what are you grateful for today?
I think overall, I'm grateful to be alive, to have freedom, to have opportunities as a doctor, as an author, as a speaker, and as a nonprofit leader. And these are all things that I wouldn't have had if I was not growing up here in America.
Thank you. I'm always grateful for this moment, because how we deal with this moment is going to dictate what's going to happen in the future. It will carry over, and it builds on top of each other. So no matter what the circumstances we're in, there's always something good that we can dive deep into. So thank you for being here. You're a light in my life. I love your smile, your attitude, your grace. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that. I can tell you're a very special lady. And,
thank you so much for having me on your show again.
So yeah, let's just sort of start with your story. You're a medical doctor, so that's what you're now. But we want to lead up to this. Why don't you just share with the audience your story, where you were born, and let this unfold, and we'll talk and integrate gratitude as we go through this.
So I was born in Vietnam in 1974, and at 14 months after the Fall of Saigon, my family and I escaped communist Vietnam on my dad's fishing boat. And during my journey to find freedom in America, I nearly died twice. Once during the transfer from my dad's fishing boat to a humanitarian ship, and another time in the refugee camp where I required emergency surgery to survive. So when we're here talking about gratitude, just reflecting on my past story is even that alone should be a good reason to have gratitude.
So, were you injured, or did you have illness, or what was, the circumstances that you had those two experiences?
So during the transfer from my dad's fishing boat eventually to the humanitarian ship, I almost fell into the ocean because someone, almost missed catching me during the transfer. But I survived that, and then I was sick with some kind of infection involving head and neck. That's the gist of what my parents know, especially when we didn't know the language. My oldest brother was around 18, and he knew French, but not really fluent in English at the time. So all we knew was that I had to get taken back under anesthesia and had to have surgery. And I've chased my records even through the Department of Defense and National Archives, and contacted historians in the government in the past couple of years. And nobody's been able to find records of that, especially because I was a refugee. So records that far back, 40, 50 years ago, wouldn't be available at this time.
So, when you got to the United States, where did you come to? I mean, where was your port of entry to the United States?
Well, we were in Guam for several years. My little sister was born in July of 1976 in Guam. And then we were sponsored through Catholic Charities to New Orleans, Louisiana. And my little brother was born there in 1978. And he was the last and the 10th child. But I was the youngest, the eighth and the youngest during the escape from Vietnam to come to America.
And that story is amazing. No, I come from that era, and I remember the fall of Saigon and all the uncertainty that was going on, and people wanting to flee, circumstances they had no idea what, it wasn't going to be positive, trying to get out. So you're here for a reason. I believe God always has a reason for us to continue on. So now you're in the States. So share a little bit about what's happened, what happened once you're here, and tie this all back into anything that you're grateful for.
So I grew up in my early years. I would believe up until first or second grade, I was learning Vietnamese and English in Louisiana. A lot of the Vietnamese was learned through the church and catechism and through the nuns. So I learned how to read and write and speak in Vietnamese in the evenings through the church programs. And during the day, I was going to school to learn English. Lots of embarrassing stories that I talk about in my memoir called Live to Give about my childhood. But I reflect on a lot of that, and just grateful that somehow my parents helped me to retain my roots and be proud of my ancestry and my language and my culture, but still be successful and embrace education in America, learning the language and adapting to the culture. In 1980, my family moved to California because my older siblings felt that we had more opportunity for education, having 10 children for public education, university, and professional career in California. So pretty much up until 1998, when I went to medical school, I spent a lot of my time on the West Coast in Southern California. And then I've been in medicine. I graduated medical school in 2002. So I've been a physician for 20 years, a pediatric GI since 2009. And I've been basically doing like travel medicine called locum tenens since 2020, and then practice with my Catholic doctor for telehealth as well, which is a practice I'm building right now.
Wonderful. So you've had some experiences acclimating to your whole family, acclimating to a whole new culture and language, and everything that comes with that, and that amazes me because I'm born and raised here. I've never had to learn another language. I tried learning Spanish in high school. That wasn't too. The only things I can say I can't repeat. So, but anyway, so you're in California. What was the thing that? When did you know that you wanted to be a doctor? I always wonder. At some point, we know what we want to do in life. When did you realize that you wanted to be in the health profession to where you are today? Was that something early on, or was that something that was nurtured as, you can just share that?
Well, I would say my interest in science started in junior high, in like 7th or 8th grade. I was given an opportunity for like an immersion experience where I had like weekends, like I think 6 to 8 weeks every Saturday, and was able to kind of have a more individualized, experience with like maybe 10 students selected. And we would see like live science experiments and interact with professors at a more personal level. And so that opened my eyes to a passion for science. But I recall even in high school, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do medicine. It's going to take way too long. And I want to get married and have kids. And how am I going to be able to do that? But somewhere, I would say 3rd year of college, I was working in a research lab, not paid, just, as a student. And I met an MD, PhD pathologist. And I remember asking him, if you could do it all over again, would you do research or take care of patients? And he says, you can be a doctor and do research. But, if you do research as a PhD, you can't see patients. So what are you going to miss? So I wanted to still retain that patient interaction. So I started volunteering in hospitals, in the ER, in the NICU. And while in the NICU, just seeing the amazing stories of doctors and nurses providing care for children who wouldn't otherwise survive without being brought to the United States from other countries. And then I reflected on my refugee story and surviving in the refugee camp because of the services of a doctor that to this day I don't know, who provided me emergency surgery. So that was 3rd year of college when I was committed to pursuing a career in medicine.
Wow. You were talking, you said memoirs, your story. It's my understanding you have a book you've written?
Yes, with Hilton Publishing. It was published December 2020 and became available since January 2021, also on Amazon. It's called Live to Give, and it's an inspirational memoir about freedom, faith, and selflessness. And when we talk about gratitude, basically, if you appreciate freedom, the ability to practice your faith, then you're more likely to appreciate your blessings and give back. That's really the story, just that I share about my family's refugee experience and adapting in America, and how we are able to be successful because of we appreciating the blessings we've had and ways to give back to other people.
And so on your website here, is there access to your book or more information about your book?
Yes, if you go to mdkatrina.com under author, if you click that, it'll take you straight to the book. It has a brief summary about the content of the book, and you can purchase it there as well.
What's the title again? Because I want to put a banner up.
It's called Live to Give.
Live to Give.
And I also linked here in our chat a link to a free chapter in my book that details how I formed my nonprofit for childhood obesity, which we recently talked about as well.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I want to create a banner. That link is way too long. I don't think anybody can copy it out of my banner.
Yeah.
So, or I will put it up in after we put that, so somebody click on or go to your website.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll be able to get a.
Hmm. So yeah, for sure.
I'm making sure I spelled your name here. Spell your name for me. The last name. Nguyen?
N like Nancy, Guyen like Nancy.
Okay. There we go. I want to make sure that they can get that, add that to the banner, and put this up here for you. So, yeah, so they can go to your website. The name of your book is Live to Give. That tells a lot right there. Gratitude is something that causes us to want to share
Hmm.
that goodness, no matter what the circumstances of
Hmm.
giving.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
I'm looking forward to get the book just to see what that's about, because my wife says, you're buying another book. I looked at my library. When I first started this growth thing for myself about 8-9 years ago, maybe I only had 2 books in the area of growth. And today, if I look in here and here in my wife's office, I probably got 800-900 books
Hmm.
that I have either partially read or have used at one time or another. So
Hmm.
it's been a journey. So I think, growth is such an important thing. And
Yes.
gratitude is a learning principle.
Hmm.
Um,
And I always say you are what you read. And so I saw this morning a friend of mine shared someone who decorated, like put up a Christmas tree, but basically it was a stack of books that formed a Christmas tree. It was like the Christmas tree for the bookaholic, right? But basically, I think that more people should go back to reading and trying to have a goal of reading a couple books a month, because that's where you learn, that's where you grow, and you get perspectives from other people. And I love learning, especially just the opportunity to be able to see perspectives and different ways of thinking and how we can develop in our life and improve our lives.
yeah, you said something that's so important is that gratitude is anything is we can always expand our awareness and our knowledge about anything. And I love this from somebody that says everybody's ignorant, even ignorant in the areas of their expertise,
Hmm.
because there's always ignorance isn't stupidity.
Hmm.
uh, but it's just that we're not fully aware of all things in and anything that we're in, because there's an infinite amount of resources, knowledge that we can all grow from. So,
Hmm.
but you said reading is so important,
Hmm.
um, and being grateful that we have books that
Hmm.
people, we just don't take Robert A. Emmons and say, oh, well, he wrote a good book.
Hmm.
But it's really important, if you really want to understand gratitude, it's a deeper dive than on the surface.
Hmm.
And I always like to use, and if you don't mind me sharing this, is some of the things that I'd like to make things simple. Okay. So gratitude. So we walk into a coffee shop and the barista's behind there making our coffee or our latte or whatever, and we say thank you. And it's just on the surface.
Hmm.
A person that goes to gratitude, and it really comes from the heart space, goes beyond just the fact that they're there and made a nice cup of coffee for them.
Hmm.
They
Yep.
really understand that barista, that person, got up early at 3 o'clock in the morning to be there at 5 for you,
Hmm.
and that the owner of the business had put this together for you. That the coffee beans they used, where did they come from, and what did people sacrifice to do to get it to you?
Hmm.
All the way down. And when we really start looking, that's simplistic on just from a cup of coffee, but when we're grateful for a relationship, it's not just a conversation we had or how we just met. If we're really grateful, we want to go deeper in that relationship to really know what your talent is you're bringing to the world.
Hmm.
And
For
so,
sure.
gratitude, as he says, we have a gratitude deficit in our country.
Hmm. That's for
Surface,
sure.
And so it changed my life. So I always like using that story. Really, what are you grateful for? I was grateful for my mom sacrificing, but when I really saw her life and what she struggled for to make my life better, she grew up in the Depression era here in the United States, and she didn't grow up in a functional family, and she struggled, and she had 4 kids by the time she was 20, and just I can't comprehend that as a young person, having all that on top of, and how she was such a gift. The sacrifice she's put forward. And I'm not saying that everybody isn't taking those stories they have in their life on the surface, but if we really, really look deep into it, our appreciation and our gratitude is more profound. So
yeah, and even my story with my dad. My dad passed away in 2018, and a lot of times for my nieces and nephews, for them to understand the story of my family's refugee experience, and when they learned about it, they thought, "Wow, Grandpa was so amazing that he had the courage and the faith to say, I'm going to take my wife and my 8 kids and just take the chance on my fishing boat, and we're going to try to chase freedom." And I mean, that takes courage, and it takes faith, and it takes a decision. And my gratitude is that he made that decision. He had the courage and he had faith to do that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here to experience the freedom and the opportunities that are available to us.
Yeah. You mentioned something too, is about your faith, and the things you're doing is tied with your faith. And I always like to paint this picture, is that faith is it's also a take for granted word. I have faith, but what does faith really mean? Faith can also move into the area of a wish, hope, and a want, which are very shallow and personal. But when we have faith with certainty gives it the power. There's no doubt that my faith in who created me and created this universe, I'm certain. I can't see him, but I see him with certainty. So it's these words that we have are we got to look at the root words, the meaning, how they align with us, and our walk, our spiritual life, our physical life. So let's talk about your nonprofit a little bit, because being grateful for what you have, and recognize there's people that have greater needs than us. So why don't you share a little bit about your what you're doing in that space of a nonprofit, and what your mission is there to give back.
So in 2014, I formed a nonprofit called Faithful to Fitness to help reverse the childhood obesity epidemic in America. And it's based on volunteerism of time, talent, and treasure. So nobody that's part of our nonprofit is paid anything. And lots of business partners who are proud to be part of it. We provide free exercise programs 2 to 3 times a year that last 12 weeks. And we have free exercise classes on Saturdays for 1 hour. We do meal prep classes, nutrition lessons. We take kids to the farm and grocery store tours. I look at the blessings I've had, and I look at my career as a doctor and how I don't have to just basically see patients because I'm being paid to do it. And I say, how can I use my skills and my knowledge to help improve the health of children and their families? So I encourage that with the volunteers, medical students, dietitians, nurses, doctors, whether they can contribute their time, talent, or treasures to help make my program, my nonprofit, possible. And so we've helped lots of families not only lose weight, but also learn how to overcome barriers to developing a healthy lifestyle for the long run, not just over a 12-week period.
Yeah, we talked about it on Wednesday, the epidemic of childhood obesity, and the long-term effects that's going to have on them. And So your mission is you see a need and you're giving. You know, you're taking your heart's passion to improve other people's life, and I'm grateful for what you do. You know, even
Yeah.
though I haven't experienced it, that there is a need, and I just encourage anybody that wants to work in that arena in the area of working with families and young people about an epidemic situation of obesity. And we can look around and we see it. I mean, it's quite obvious, and how we can help and change that direction of, I would call it the epidemic, one of many probably that's out there.
And I think the other thing that when we link it to gratitude, you know, in healthcare in the last 20 years in my career, people are always seeking, you know, wellness. So I've seen this to be true, that gratitude leads to generosity. Generosity leads to joy, and joy is what leads to wellness. So those are all things that are important. If we are seeking joy, joy is very different than just happiness. Happiness is very dependent on the environment and people and situations, but joy is something internal. You can create joy because of your attitude towards your life and your blessings. So it has to start with gratitude in order to lead to generosity, joy, and then wellness.
You know, you're saying something that you're just ringing my bell quite positively. Is I believe gratitude opens the gateway to love. There's a path to love. That's the highest level of beingness that we can be in. That state of love, and so gratitude is a very profound place. You can't hold a negative thought and a positive thought at the same time. Now it could go back and forth rapidly, but happiness. A lot of people, I hear people talking about happiness. I'm looking to become happy. I want to, like you said, it's temporary. It could be just a momentary excitement, and then we can move into a negative or whatever. But if you look at it from a spiritual place, if you look at scriptures, scripture's never not talking about happiness. It's talking about joy. That's that deep appreciation that joy has a feeling by itself, just like love has a special feeling. Happiness has a vibration or a feeling, but joy is a much deeper, and that's what we're really seeking in life.
Yes.
Is that being joyful in all things that you do. You know, we're approaching the Christmas season. You know, peace, love, and joy, peace, and love, right?
Yep. All the virtues that we're focused on.
Exactly. So, and gratitude, I just call the gateway or doorway to love. And thank you for sharing that.
Yep. And I think the other thing, I recently spoke at a Rotary Club meeting a couple weeks ago, and I shared this. I said that money can buy fleeting moments of happiness, but I found that the greatest joy for me is finding time to serve people. So the service of others is what leads to joy. But the thing is, in our culture in particular, it's always about what's the next thing I can buy to fulfill my happiness. But it's only fleeting, as you said. That moment has passed, that experience or that thing you own. But you know, when you serve people, you leave a legacy, an impact, and you just never know that one person that you help, or groups of people you've helped, or an organization you helped.
Yeah,
it's going to be lasting. They'll be talking about it, and the feeling of joy for them will be for years to come.
You know, we're just talking about happiness, you know, happy birthday, happy holidays, happy, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm 72, so I've had 72 birthdays, but I don't remember the happy birthdays. I do remember the joyful birthdays. And it was my great aunt that I just loved dearly. When she came to my birthdays, they were the best birthday. They're the ones I'm joyful that she was there participating in my life, and she brought her love and her presence. The rest of my birthdays, I knew I had happy birthdays, my friends and the cakes and toys and the gifts.
Mm-hmm.
But joy is those things that are rooted in the heart and a feeling. And I just used my birthday story because I don't remember all my birthdays, but I remember the joyful birthdays with my dear Aunt Gladys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the same thing. If we think about, are we happy that we have children that experience? It's usually the joy of the experience, even the childbirth. I can't comprehend it being a male, but that joy that life brings us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not happy that we have children. Many times our children give us a lot of headaches, right? But in reality, we look at even the things that challenge us about parenthood and raising children. And if we look at it from a place of joy, it changes the whole perspective, it changes the whole experience. And when I hear people like yourself, they're not talking about the challenges, even though there were challenges, they're talking about the gratitude and the joy that they can reflect back on. So,
yeah,
like it says in this book, can I read this to you? Because I think
yes, I have to check out that book as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Robert A. Emmons. Gratitude is important, and not only because it helps us feel good. We're talking about feeling good, but also because it inspires us to do good. That giving more than you're giving. Okay. Gratitude heals, energizes, and transforms lives.
Yeah.
And I'm speaking from a personal basis. Gratitude, studying these principles, has transformed my life I'm going to be writing a book here relatively soon. Gratitude takes us outside our scope so we can see ourselves as a part of a larger, and is a word here, intricate network of sustaining relationships that are mutually reciprocal. So that's how the preface has opened the book. So, we take, like I said, we take gratitude, and you expounded on that. You live gratitude, you walk gratitude. It's not just your talk, but you are living it, and I sense that. And I appreciate that as well. So,
and what you just read actually reminded me of another epidemic that's going on in healthcare, which is how to fight burnout. Burnout in healthcare careers, especially the past 2 years. Gratitude is the key to fighting burnout. So if you wake up every morning with an attitude of gratitude, you go to work and you appreciate the fact that you have a job, that you're alive, that you have health, you're supporting your family with your income, you're able to serve people and improve their lives. Those are the things that changes the perspective in your job and what you're doing. So when I've been to many meetings in the past couple of years, there's a lot of talk about how to fight burnout in the career in healthcare. I'm sure in other careers as well, but especially healthcare in the past couple of years.
Absolutely.
So what you read made me think of that.
Well, that's good, because also we're talking about gratitude, and it's a discipline that we have to. It's like anything, we want to get better at it. It takes some sacrifice, it takes some work, and it takes some energy to expand your level of awareness in anything that we do. And I always, you mentioned, it's not just getting up in the mornings being grateful, and I believe writing down daily what you're grateful for is so important. Well, I did that yesterday. Why should I do that? I'm grateful for my family. I'm great, but you need to go beyond that. And in his book here, and I would encourage anybody, because we hear to write your gratitudes down. That should be the first thing you do in the day. Should be part of your routine of settling yourself for the day, is a gratitude principles or activity. In this book, he referenced the world record of writing out a gratitude statement every day, never replicated or duplicated, for 50 straight years. Never missed a day. never replicated or duplicated of anything they were grateful for. They were deep. It wasn't, I'm just grateful for my glasses, but why? The why is so important than just I'm grateful for that I got a pair of glasses to see better. Can you imagine when we do it even on just talking about it or waking up with that and then you write it, it's already proven what that does in many areas of our health, our life, our perspective. Could you imagine how that person walked this earth? I believe their walk was beyond anything we can comprehend. That would be almost like a spiritual walk or walking the foots of Christ or somebody like that. Because just think about how, and I had somebody say, well, how can you be, there can't be that much. We can't comprehend infinite supply.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
God has given us infinite supply of love, appreciation, gratitude, and we can be grateful for anything. I'm grateful for the sand that I walk on when I go to the beach. And why? You know, what does that make me feel? So we have infinite supply of things we can be grateful for, but not just on the surface. I can't comprehend, and I'm a pretty disciplined person in relationship to what I call the masses out there, and I fall way short of people like this lady.
I could imagine him walking, like they say, being the light for the world and shining a light, for other people.
Yeah.
How much he'd be glowing if he was writing that for 50 years and not repeating his gratitude. I think one of your previous guests too, Scott Schilling, had talked about writing about gratitude and having a social media following for a while about it. So it's always fascinating to me to hear stories like that. And I've also, met people who have published like gratitude journals, so encouraging people to write gratitude journals as well. So I think that's very healthy, physically, mentally, spiritually, to focus on that every day.
Yeah. And that's one of the things when we see people that are, and a lot of time we live in a culture, we're basing success based on how big their paychecks is, their accomplishments in life. And all those things have a place and importance if they're kept in a perspective of that. But when we see people that are coming and they're expressing gratitude, not just to say gratitude to sound good, but they express it, they walk it, they demonstrate it. They're not boastful, they're humbled. There's a lot of things about gratitude when we see that person and then we look and say their life is different. And they're walking it and they practice it. And I think we seek that. And this is part of what we're doing is today is bringing a new level of awareness about gratitude. And if we can learn from those that have embraced gratitude at a much deeper level, we can enhance our lives. And it's not all about the size of your paycheck and the number of cars you have and the trips you take around the world or all that. That's all good stuff. But going back to being a place of gratitude that you can give, and it doesn't have to be the physical giveness of a check or money. It could be your time, your talent, or just a grateful comment to somebody. When people ask me all the time, and at first it was sort of I'll do as an exercise. But when I started seeing what it did for other people, you go to the grocery store and people automatically, how are you today? What do people respond? A canned response, right?
Yeah.
Conditioned response. But like I go to the grocery store and I will acknowledge that person from a sincere place that whether I see them struggling, you can tell people whether they're happy or they're stressed out or whatever. I will say, thank you very much for, and whatever I noticed doing. Because they'll ask me, how are you today? And I will say, this is the best day of my life. This moment's the best day of my life. And it stops them right in their tracks. And they said, well, did you just get married? He hit the lottery? No, I says, I'm grateful that I'm here, I'm grateful that you're doing your job magnificently. I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because we never know if we leave that person in a better place, that's that giving. And I see it coming back. They changes, their body language changes, the look in their eye, the smile. And I know they went home thinking differently about their day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, when I was reminded when I started my nonprofit in 2014, and then we had our first program launched in April 2015. At the end of 12 weeks, I received a card from a family, and I still have that card to this day. And the front of the card says, "Your teaching has led a ripple effect," and it had a pebble dropping into a pond. And I thought, wow, what a meaningful card. And a lot of people will just get a card and they may not even keep it. They read it and they set it aside. I have it filed away in my folder for my nonprofit because anytime that I feel like, am I making a difference? I just look at that card and I say, how many ripple effects have I, caused ever since we started this? And every time that I get a text from someone thanking us, for giving them an opportunity to overcome barriers by being part of our program, whether they lost weight, whether they started on a health journey to eating better, whether they found time to make memories as a family because they're doing things together. Those are the kind of texts that I just embrace and I send back and I say, thank you for brightening my day because you've made me feel that my work matters and the work of my volunteers matter. And I share those stories with volunteers to remind them that they're making a difference. And I think that's important. It actually elevates gratitude every day because we often, as human beings, need to be reminded that we make a difference, and that elevates gratitude.
And everybody has a gift, a talent, a perspective, a wisdom to bring to the world to improve somebody's life. And we never know if we walk around with a chip on our shoulder and we're angry and we're not acknowledging somebody else's pain. We could be the person that either going to influence them in a positive way that day or negative. And I've heard many different stories about how somebody was ready to take their life, but somebody gave them something of positiveness. They recognized their pain. They took time to see them. Maslow, if you understand Maslow's hierarchy, and I just keep it real simple. People want to be seen. Do you see me? Do you hear me? And do you really care?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get to that's gratitude, is that you're taking time to really listen to somebody. And that's hard for Tom Ginn because I'm learning still how to really listen. But when we get to that state, we are now doing what we're here to do as human beings, is engaging with people in meaningful, caring, loving presence. Now, can we solve all the problems of the world? No. But we can solve this. Can I leave you in a better space than I found you?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and I remind people all the time. Everybody says, I want to help make or change the world. Well, why don't we start with helping one person? Because you can change a world for that one person.
And that's that ripple effect. That one person will take that nugget, will embrace it, and share that new level of whatever it is, that love, that compassion, that wisdom, or whatever it is, and impact somebody else. And that person will come away. And that's how we grow.
Mm-hmm.
Is we're influenced either positively or negatively by all the elements of our life. And that's people, circumstances, you name it. But it's just our perspective is determined how we operate within the world.
Mm-hmm.
We can have deaths in our families, we can have economic problems, we can have all these tragedies and storms and everything else. But you see the people that rise above it, it amazes me. They're grateful. They're not crying in the milk. You know, it's my terminology, but they really say, yeah, we lost our house to a hurricane, but I am blessed and I'm grateful that I'm here. I can now go out and I can help my neighbor, and I can do. A man rises up to, and that's what we're here to do.
Yep.
And some people can't rise up. So, you know, my background, I like to share this, and I measured my success when I was at my financial service agency in California based on the number of successful reps I created, the number of sales I made, the amount of size of my paycheck, and puffing my chest and all that. And I did, you know, my mission was really to help people win with money, because we live in a culture of people struggling financially, even today. No matter what people are making, are struggling financially. And I just took a lot for granted until here about 4 years ago. Out of the blue, it took me a while to even figure out who the person was, but it was a past client that found me through Facebook. And he said, I've been searching for you because I wanted to share with you how you changed my life. Something I took for granted. He came back, if you hadn't came in, helped me get out of debt, teach me some principles about this or that, I don't know where I'd be. And he says, I sought you out just to say thank you. And I know that impacted his family, because he tells what his kids are doing. He went into this whole thing, and he says it was you. Now, I wasn't seeking that, but that's really like the thank you notes. Like one of the companies I represent, the letters they get back from people that are impacted, it's so much more meaningful than the dollars they're making, and you've changed lives. And so gratitude, I think, is the building block to move us in that direction. Would you agree, Doctor?
Oh, absolutely. And I think people, you know, like shows like this and stories and conversations we have like this are a great reminder that we need to talk about it more. I think that's one way to help improve wellness, you know, for a lot of people who are seeking it.
Yeah. Well, you know, for me, I could get into the weeds and talk all day about this. Then I can move into this book that I'm reading right now. Change your mind and your life will follow. Change, like Dr. Wayne Dyer says, change your thinking and things around you change. So,
yeah. And another book somebody asked me about, like one of my favorite books that led me to, you know, being more giving, is a book by Matthew Kelly called Resisting Happiness. You know, I think I read it in like 3 days, and then I bought 24 copies and gave it out to people because it was so important. But again, if we are seeking happiness in the wrong way, instead of seeking joy, then oftentimes we're actually we're going the resistant path to finding joy. So if we're more giving and more selfless, we have more gratitude, I think we're going to find more joy in our life.
Well, you said it perfectly. And I look forward to, you know, continue relationship in our circles that we're running with. I'm here to support your mission. Again, your book is called
Live to Give.
Live to Give. Where it is? Okay. Live to Give. I'm definitely going to get that. Book's on Amazon, or you can get it off any of the bookstores that are out there.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm grateful for also, I was going to mention, is I have a book signing for my book tomorrow at Barnes & Noble here in Rockford, Illinois, from 11 to 3 p.m. So if anybody is in the Illinois area and is around and looking for holiday shopping, you can come see me and get a signed copy.
Well, so that's going to be in Rockford, Illinois.
Yes.
I want to put that out there to everybody, tag and share.
Saturday, December 3rd, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a local author book signing, and I'm one of, I believe, 4 local authors invited to the holiday book signing event in the Cherryville Mall, Rockford, Illinois, Barnes & Noble.
Wonderful. Well, that will be fun, you know. And I'm definitely going to get your book, Doctor, because I'm all into, you know, live to give. Live to give.
Thank you very much. I look forward to meeting new people through this journey of sharing my mission and my story, both virtually meeting people and also in person as well.
Wonderful. I'm going to have you step back into the green room and
Thank you
hold tight
very
for a minute.
much.
And
Yeah,
then
for having me
I'm
on
just,
my show.
okay. Gratitude. Gratitude is not just a word. It's an energy. You see it, you sense it, you feel it. Uh, you know, Dr. Nguyen just is in a perfect example. It's a tone of her voice, her body language. You know, gratitude is a spiritual principle in life, and like I shared, is I believe it opens the gateway to love, and that's ultimately what we're seeking is that highest level of God's grace with that. So she has great mission, great purpose. You can reach out to her, go to her website right here, learn more about her, find out more about her book. She does have a mission to, with her nonprofit, reach out to her, find out more about her cause. It just only takes one person to share the good news that helps another person, that help another person to help that whole cause. So the ripple effect. Her email is right here. Don't hesitate to send her an email, touch base with her. And she also on Wednesday when you talk about own your own health, and if anybody's out there has obesity issues or anything with children, reach out to her as well. She does have a 30-minute meeting if of interest for you as well. So I'm so grateful. Robert A. Emmons' book, I highly encourage it to get his book. It changed my life in a different perspective, and it makes a whole lot of difference for you. So with that all said, we are going to sign out. I'm so grateful for all those that are watching. Tag and share, and we'll see you next week on G-Force.